Starting next month, you'll certainly be paying more for the ride. The MTA voted unanimously to increase fares and tolls during an intense board meeting yesterday. Take a look.
I am not going to sit here today when you're destroying our community. And Mr. Chairman, this is going to be on your legacy. This is going to be on your watch.
We need to focus, and we have been focusing on the cleanliness, timeliness, safety, and also accessibility, because we've heard that loud and clear.
The other key issue tackled was congestion pricing and how it's going to work. Lisa Daglian is on the Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA. She was in the room where it happened. She's joining us this morning to bring us up to speed. Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
You know, these fare increases are going to happen in about a month.
Yep, August 20th.
Some of the complaints are saying that fares are going up, but service and safety is not matching that. What's the response?
Well, fares are scheduled to go up on August 20th. And, the base fare hasn't gone up since 2015. So it's almost a decade since that's gone up. What we are seeing is better service. We're seeing more service, more reliable service, and there was more funding that was put in the budget so that we'd see increases on the particularly heavy lines during the off-peak, on weekends, things where where the MTA heard the most complaints. Safety's improving. That's not something that's in the MTA's hands. That's something that it's in some ways individual to all of us. What's not individual is what it costs. The monthlies going up, the daily, the weeklies are going up. But I think we have to also look at what the cost of not raising the fare is and the cost of disinvestment in the system. In the past, the MTA has gone from crisis to crisis, lurching like a monster almost, from sea of red ink to sea of red ink. And we heard during the pandemic about the potential for a 40% fare increase. What we got yesterday was a 4%.
Yeah, and some would say, but then when you look at it in the totality of what you're describing is, well, why should we pay more for the miscalculations and bad management of the MTA over the years in terms of a budget? So the MTA chairman, General Lieber, kind of addressed this yesterday. He's talking about why there are these increases, right, to help with the budget. Let's play a clip and then get your perspective.
It is an important moment. It's not without its downsides, because anytime you're asking people to pay a little more, that has consequences. But for everybody who depends on this transit system, like I always say, mass transit is like air and water for New Yorkers. We need it. And if it had been allowed to go bankrupt, we'd be talking about something very different in terms of fare increases and service cuts and layoffs.
Yeah, I mean, an increase is an increase. 40% to 4%, nobody wants to pay more, right? Especially when the perception is, well, the service isn't improving, right? If you look at people's tweets online, they're saying, well, I'm waiting 13, 15 minutes for a train.
Right, absolutely. And that service increases are scheduled to go into effect starting this weekend, next weekend, and on a rolling basis over the coming months. And that's, that really is in large part or actually in total part, due to the largesse of the state legislature and the governor, who found money in the budget to fill the budget holes in the MTA. I was never so happy to see a bunch of zeros as I was on the MTA's budget sheet, as I was at their finance committee.
Yeah.
The MTA has never had a balanced budget. And Richard Ravitch realized in 2008, 2009 that if you don't have regular small incremental increases in the fare, that what is going to happen is the system is going to deteriorate, and that everybody's going to suffer all the time, that we're going to be waiting, forget 8 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Okay.
Things we saw during the pandemic, we're running as much service as we can with the crews we have available. Nobody wants to go back to
But
that.
I mean, the flip side of making mass transit more expensive is that you may have more fare evaders because people simply can't afford to get around the city anymore, with the cost of living increasing as well. Which is another costly measure to keep track of.
Right, absolutely. I had the opportunity, the pleasure of sitting on the Blue Ribbon panel on fare evasion. And that was really eye-opening to look at all of the different, not just the different reasons that people might evade the fare, but the different opportunities to address it. The MTA at their board meeting yesterday looked at a number of different approaches to stopping fare evasion before it starts, and also to helping the people who need it the most. through expansion of fare fares,
Yeah.
which didn't get expanded as much as we would have hoped. And we'd like to also see that move to commuter rails.
And our Greg Mocker did a great piece the other day. It's on PIX11.com about fare evasion and some new methods that they're doing, including new turnstiles. I want to talk about congestion pricing because that was talked about yesterday. It is hotly talked about and debated. A lot of questions, right, about overnight workers, shift workers, exemptions. How is this going to play out?
So I thought that the questions yesterday were really interesting about the overnight and the shift workers. And that's one of the reasons that the Traffic Mobility Review Board met, and they met in public, so that those questions could be aired and that people would know that this is not a done deal. I was like, oh, those are brilliant. You know, who thinks of these people who are going to be affected directly? Now, we're the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA is part of the Congestion Pricing Now Coalition. We know that it's essential to fund the infrastructure that keeps transit moving, the Long Island Railroad, Metro North, subways, buses, Staten Island Rail.
Right, and that's where the debate comes in, right? Because people are saying, well, I live in the suburbs and I drive, and so why am I paying for something that doesn't affect me? Which, you know, it all comes down to the wallet, right? So what is the bottom line when it comes to exemptions? What are you hearing in terms of how this is going to play out? Because people are saying, okay, I'm an overnight worker, there's no congestion during that time. Am I going to pay?
Well, the federal government had the MTA put in some overnight exemptions between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. for no fares. So the TMRB, Traffic Mobility Review Board, has a lot of latitude to look at, well, what about the person who goes to work at midnight and comes home at 7 or 8 a.m.? You know, does that mean that they're paying twice, or they go to 11 to 7? You know, how is that going to play out? Because you're only supposed to get charged once a day. What does this mean for truck drivers? What does this mean for commercials? Right now, buses could be charged. That includes MTA buses. Does that make sense? We don't think so. So we, as a coalition, have sent a letter saying we don't think that yellow taxis should have an additional burden.
Okay.
We don't think that commuter buses should be included in the congestion fee.
Okay.
And we think that for-hire vehicles, especially the high-volume for-hire vehicles, that fee should be passed on to the rider. So only a small portion of people drive into the central business district. 85–90% of people actually take transit, and that's who the system needs to be made better for. And a healthy transit system is a healthy region.
All right, either way, the price is going up for everything. Lisa Daglian, thanks so much for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right.